Hi, it's Mark from the Digging Deep podcast. Just a quick one before we get started. Over the past few weeks, we've had more than 15,000 views and listens across the podcast, which is brilliant. So first of all, thank you. But what we are seeing is that a lot of people are watching and listening and not subscribing. So if you are enjoying the podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to subscribe, whether that's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. It makes a big difference and helps us keep growing, bringing in great guests and improving the show each week. Also, give us a follow on social to keep up with everything we've got going on. Right, let's get on with this week's episode.
Morning, just trying to get sorted out here. All over the place, Mark. Technology, eh? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm not too bad. My techno experience seems to be a lot more smoother than yours this morning then.
Yeah, well, Charlie will join us when he can, you know, usual drama for the Gen Z generation, you know, Mark.
Basically, he just woke up.
You'd never get them down the mines, would you?
No, you wouldn't, no.
You know, and God forbid that something does happen where Trump kicks off a World War III. I think we would be in the shit.
Yeah, they'll be having a lie in. The war would start at 11.
Yeah. The first missile will come over and they'll be like, "Really? Do you mean, you know, I've still got to go through and flick through my Instagram before I can pick up my gun and start shooting back."
Do you think they'd message Putin and go, "Bit early, mate. We said 11."
Yeah. They'll be doing, you know, TikTok videos in the trenches. You know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah.
Anyway, how we doing? What's doing your head in there, Mark? Let's get right into it.
What's doing my head in, right? I'm going to start this what's doing my head in with a question. Question to you, question to the listeners, right? And we're talking about lunch, right? Midday lunch, not dinner, right? How much time is a reasonable wait for your lunch, right? So we've gone out with the girls, right? In fact, we didn't get to go where we wanted to go because it was maxed out. So we ended up going to this pub, real nice pub, and it's quite renowned for the food. I would say it was moderately full, not full, not maxed out, just a moderate lunchtime. Yeah. So we don't order a lot because we really want lunch. They wanted to go Blue Water shopping. We've ordered. I think Sarah's ordered a jacket potato, and I've got a club sandwich, and the girls have got barbecue chicken sandwiches. Nothing amazing, right? And we had to wait, Mark, an hour and 20 minutes, right? And I remember I'd been to the toilet, God knows how many times. I'd been out for a vape, God knows how many times. I got to the point where we were in like the old pub wooden chairs. I got to the point where the old chair was doing my back in. I thought, when is the food coming, right? And then when it came, I looked and it was an hour and 20 minutes from the point we ordered it.
And cold.
To be fair, it wasn't, but like that's like that'd be even worse if it was cold. But what is a reasonable wait time?
I don't know, because I had it on Saturday night where I think we waited in between courses. No, for the starter it was 45 minutes.
Oh,
yeah, it's painful.
yeah.
And that's a small restaurant, so yeah, I get you. I've had it. I think it's to do with the fact that they ain't got no staff at the moment. No one seems to have any staff, but everyone's crying that there's a load of people at work, but and young kids can't get starter jobs. But there's loads of. But I don't know now. But believe it or not, when we come out of COVID, I understood it. You know, everyone went home, didn't they? We had a lot of Eastern European people working in restaurants, and then everyone kind of went back because of COVID and Brexit, and they were, do you know what? We've actually got some good work going on in our own country, and they just don't seem to have come back. So I kind of got that, and then because you notice you started to get more English-speaking people in restaurants, like serving you know, in certain areas, especially in London, and then I don't know if it is that now. I think it's down to the fact that they're just keeping it lean because of the minimum wage and because of the national insurance. Because there's people out there saying that they would do work and they can't get a job, and I don't think the job's there. I think they've just cancelled the job.
Yeah, I mean, look. In fairness, do you know what? You're absolutely right, because if you think about it, if you're a pub, and pubs are struggling, we all know that, and they reckon now that the only way a pub can make money is through food. So the more people you've got in the kitchen means the more minimum wage, the more national insurance. This is where the government went wrong. You put the national insurance and the minimum wage up, people got to let someone go. For all I know, that pub could have had 5 people at the back. Now it's got 4 because
That's why he's being battered in the local elections, isn't it? And that's why he won't be Prime Minister by the end of the week. But then who are you going to get? Because I watched I don't want to get political, but I was obviously I was a young lad. I was getting into industry. It was flying, construction, and I was a Margaret Thatcher fan, and she went to battle, and you either liked her or you didn't, but she seemed to create wealth opportunities. And I just looked at this political broadcast that came on in between something I was watching, and that Kimmy, whatever her name is, and I'm thinking, she'd be turning her fucking grave, wouldn't she? Looking at the type of people that are running her party, never mind who's beat her party out of existence to get in a landslide election. Remember, it was a landslide election. It wasn't as if he just nicked her. And now look at what's running the country, and you just think, what is that to do with us, though? Do we just not fucking see how stupid these people are? I don't know if I want Farage in. I don't know if I want all the politics around that. They're a little bit. I don't know. I wouldn't call them right wing as what we would know right wing is. But I tell you what, there's no one else out there, is there? I think it needs a shake up. I think it needs a shock that one of the major parties does not get in, and someone actually comes in and goes, right. And we ain't going to agree with everything, but I'll tell you one thing: we need someone to get hold and say, look. I mean, they're talking about last night on the news, don't see it? They're talking about privatising British Steel. Don't fucking make any money. We're going to have to pay for that. Like, probably the best part of £1 billion when it comes down to it. But we'll have to find to pay for British Steel. You think
it's the never-ending English. It's the never-ending English citizen debt in it. But I've always said this. I've said the House of Commons is broken. It doesn't work. That the way the system, the way it works.
It worked in the 1600s.
It works in the 1600s. It doesn't work anymore. And the reality is, going back to what you said, the people that have got access to become MPs, right, to that are in the House of Commons, I can't get access to that. You can't get access to that. I can't be a Prime Minister. I'd love to be a Prime Minister because I'd shake this country up, but I can't be a Prime Minister. So the people that have got real world working experience, the business people that have worked their way through the industry like yourself, who know what a profit and loss is, know where the income comes from, know where the payments are made, and can balance the books. That's what we need. Not people that go, oh yeah, what it is, we need bold moves and we need bold this and bold action. That's bold nothing. How about you boldly walk off?
I can just see you outside number 10 with your Active, sponsored by Active, on top of your blazer. Active Plant.
Number 10, sponsored by Active Plant. That's it.
Yeah, or strategically placed digger outside the front, little mini digger.
That's it.
Outside.
That's it. I'll have a little mini digger there in the garden bit behind the fence, always there like a statue. They'd have a statue of me.
Well, there's a good lead into that. So today I thought we'd talk about, why is it so expensive to build homes in Britain? We're talking about politics and homes and costs and, knowing that, believe it or not, that 45% of the spend in this country, by the way, of all spend is done by government. Did you know that?
No,
Just to finish that, 45% of everything that's spent in this country. That's quite an amazing stat. Anyways, today we're talking about something that forgets well, it does affect almost everybody, because if you're renting, the rents will go up. If you're buying, it's impossible to buy now, isn't it? So whether you're trying to buy your first home, build your own home, which would probably be the cheapest option now, extend your property or work in construction, you probably asked the question, why is it so expensive to build in Britain? And been digging into this, I know you have as well, Mark, just to have a look to see what was out there. And, we know how much Charlie was moaning about building the bungalow and still what it's costing him, And here's what shocked me the most. The UK is now ranked the 4th most expensive country to build in. And London is in the top 5. It's actually number 5 most expensive cities on earth to build in. I mean, that's just phenomenal. Why is it we look at ourselves, we always talk about these things, it's always the UK, isn't it? It's always the UK. We can't build enough homes. Is this the reason? I don't know. And they're just so expensive to buy. And what you get now is just a postage stamp of a house on a new build, isn't it? Mm. So what do you reckon's going on when you first, when you we were talking about this the other day, I thought this might be a good subject. When you first looked at these numbers, what surprised you, Bob?
Well, it really surprised me, because when you look globally, you'd assume that Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong, you'd expect these places to be higher. I think there's some reasons behind it. I think UK regulations are costly. We've spoke many times about the labour shortages being severe, haven't we? Planning creates delays as well. So everything's always in planning over here, isn't it? And of course, since the COVID and some of the other aspects we've had here, we've had huge material inflation, which is worse than everything.
Yeah, so what we're saying is that, when people are blaming the builder, the greedy builder, it's probably, is that fair, fair? I don't think it is. I mean, builders often operate on tighter margins than people think. We spoke about that, didn't we? We're saying that I think people outside of construction that would be listening would be surprised at the last episode about the 2%, the margins that people are making. And you'd think any young entrepreneur out there was listening, they'd go, God, why would you want to go into that industry? As you said, prices of materials have changed dramatically. And do you know what? I think we're one of those reactional countries where as soon as there's a bit of a crisis going on in the war, the timber's gone up, or the oil's gone up, and it goes up literally before anyone's really fired a bullet. The labour shortages have always, this is the biggest thing. We had this in operators, didn't we? The lack of operators makes them a commodity, makes them bang the price up. We're not in control of that because, as we said, it's CIS mainly still out there. So people are self-employed, rightly saying, well, you'll pay me this, mate, rather than the other way around where the job's £10 an hour, mate, take it or leave it. And the clients don't often understand the real cost of what's going on. So let's break it down exactly. Let's have some stats, Mark. I know you've got something dug away there somewhere, under the table.
Yeah, we can find you some stats. Let's have a look what we got here. You mentioned that the UK sits roughly 4th in the world, yeah? So let's look at the people above us. And I've got some stats here. The US sits at number 1. So looking at the cost to build, it's $5,700 per square metre. Switzerland sits below that in number 2 at $5,000 per square metre. Hong Kong is 3rd, $4,500 per square metre to build, which then sits Britain 4th at $4,473. And you know what? I can think of a lot of places that I would have thought would have been more expensive. You'd expect Britain to be 10th, wouldn't you?
You'd think that's to be a lot further down in Europe, never mind globally. I think, London, when you look at London, we just said that, like being a Londoner, both of us going to London all the time, it seems to be that it gets even crazier. What does that look like at number 5?
Yeah, London's at number 5, sitting at 4,163 thousand per square metre to build, which is really interestingly because Manchester is significantly lower, but is rising very fast. It's catching up.
And how can that be, though? You know, how can that be? That it's strange, isn't it? How can a city that's like a few feet away, really, in real terms, for another be significant higher than the other one? It's not that much expensive to live in London than it is in Manchester. You know, the price of bread's still the same price in London as in Manchester. They might pay 50 pence a pound cheaper in certain pubs, but electricity is the same price. So when homeowners near those numbers, they think builders are cashing in, don't they? I mean, they actually feel that it's everyone taking advantage. Maybe that's partly true. What's the reality, do you think?
Well, I think, look, if you break it down, you've got the labour and the material costs. I don't think the builders are cashing in because the labour and material costs are really high now. The other thing that we've not spoke about is insurance costs. Insurance costs are big now. Delays, we mentioned it before, delays eat into profits. You only need a few weeks delay. You've got your resources ready. A few weeks delay, you're having to pay people or you're having to pay charges to store materials. And then, of course, you've got unexpected project overruns, which might not be anything to do with you. It might be because that can't open or that can't close, and that then costs you money because you can't now finish the job and get paid.
Yeah, I think the other option is the price of land. Obviously, it seems to be very high in certain areas. Of course, it does. There's no doubt that Hong Kong, New Delhi, and places like that is actually quite high, and London being one of the highest places to buy land. I don't think we're not saying the obvious. The obvious is that sometimes land costs more, therefore the final build's going to cost more. But I don't think it's just to do with that, is it? And when we're talking about material costs, we looked at COVID, which seemed to change construction pricing. Everything went crazy after COVID, but it doesn't seem to have come down, does it? Everything goes up. It doesn't come down. What do you think really happened there? Do you think we had the wool over our eyes?
I think we spoke about it on a previous pod. We had COVID, then we had the Suez Canal. Even now we've got the Strait of Hormuz or whatever it is. Looking at it, we've had timber shortages. We've had steel increases, fuel rises now. Supply chains have broke down because they're unable to get some of the products they're trying to get abroad. The Ukraine war impact. We've had a lot in recent years, to be fair.
Yeah, but how bad did it really get? I mean, looking back at it, I think, yes, factories shut down. I can understand that. Then some factories closed because they couldn't gear back up again at the same level. Some factories never reopened, I get that. But the price of timber to have gone up, or the price of fuel, it doesn't seem to drop. I understand the impact at the moment. But I just think that we take advantage a little bit. As soon as there's something going on, the Ukraine war, the price of fuel will go up. Well, not necessarily, because not all countries were affected by that. And not all countries did get their supplies of energy from Russia and the Ukraine area. But yeah, look, let's. Have we got any other data on why you think it's gone up, Mark? Or
I haven't got any data on that at the moment. To be quite honest with you, I do agree with what you said. It almost seems to be that suppliers look for an excuse. Yeah. Oh, there's a war here, there's a shortage there, the Suez Canal's blocked. There seems to be an excuse, and then the prices rise dramatically on timber, on steel. And the crazy thing is as well, is when you're talking to the supply chain, when the Ukraine war started, I couldn't believe this. Right, you remember we was back doing the fire safety products. I couldn't believe how many things that are supposedly made in Ukraine now. Right, that we didn't know before. Right, and then the minute the Suez Canal blocks up, everything needs to go through the Suez Canal. Really, it didn't go through the Suez Canal before, and so I wonder if people somewhere down the line, somebody is just putting it up. It's like fuel over here. As soon as there's an issue in Iran, the fuel went up. Well, I understood that we had 3 months worth of storage over here in the UK. So surely for the next 3 months, the fuel should be the
Same price.
Yeah, and then go up 3 months later.
Yeah.
And it goes up the day the war starts, and the day the war finishes. It don't come down straight away, does it? It kind of filters through over 3 months. So there's an element of profiteering, surely.
But yeah, no one's ever kept accountable, are they? Held accountable. No one goes back and says, "Oh well, by the way, we want that money back now because you just took the piss." No one does that, so they just get away with it. And you know what? You know, I was going to say, have we stabilised? But I don't think it is. I think this seems to be the new normal, doesn't it? There's always a crisis. There's always something going on. It's like, the Iran war, the Ukraine war, the COVID, the this, the that. And not only that, we've got to put up with, in the UK especially, I just don't know if anyone wants to work anymore, Mark. You come back after Christmas. Oh, don't bother me at the moment. Just come back after Christmas, mate. So you think, okay, well, so no one does any business till February. And you get into February, into March, and then someone says, "Oh yeah, well, it's coming up to Easter, mate. Maybe give us a shout after Easter. I'm not thinking about nothing till Easter." You're thinking, okay, right. And you come back after Easter, and you're getting into the spring. Oh, I'm away now, early spring from my holiday. And then you come back and you try and do a bit, get the momentum going. And the bloke says, "Oh, yeah, well, it's the school holidays now, mate. So we have a few people away. Maybe come back after that." And before you know it, you think, "Oh, I got a good run up to Christmas." And you think, no, it's half term now in the middle of October. Everyone's away, and or no one wants to do any business. And then all of a sudden you're back at Christmas again, and you're told to fuck off until January, and then no one speaks to you until February again. It's just like we don't want to do any fucking work. Delays sometimes is down to the fact that just crack on. Where's the days where you went home on? I'm not being a humbug, but you went home on Christmas Eve. I remember families would go home on Christmas Eve and they would be back at work. I used to be back at work on day after Boxing Day, cracking on. You're not now, and there's always an excuse that, "Oh yeah, it was the bank holiday, mate, so it's a 4-day week." What, you go brain dead because it's a 4-day week? You can't make a fucking decision. Yeah, it's tough, but that should have been what's doing my editing. That should have been that. I was doing my fucking editing. People don't want to go to work anymore. Anyway, let's move on to a bit of planning. There might, this will probably get people fired up as well. Is Britain's planning system broken? Do you reckon? We've got real examples here. Proper planning delays. As you said, Mark, everything's always in planning. Redesign costs. It's amazing how many times you get through a job, halfway through a fucking job, and there's a redesign. What was they doing on the normal sign off? And then they got all the approval weights. Just the way that it's just held up all the time, and there's a bottleneck, isn't there? And there's always some idiot at the end of in the council saying, "Oh well, I don't think you got the right tiles there, mate." And what makes you laugh about that is that you look at London is one thing, and I think of Prince Charles when he was a prince, or he's King Charles, but when he was Prince Charles, a lot of people thought he was an absolute lunatic. But when you look at the skyline of London and the old buildings that are there, and then these new ones that are all over the place, and you think to yourself, how did that all get signed off? Because my mate can't have a red tile on his roof because the geezer next door has got a grey one. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's total bullshit. What's your, it's me going on how bad are the national numbers of, what are the delays in planning?
I think the trouble we got now, we have got delays in planning, and I can't get my head round for why, because and the other thing is the system's broken, because when it's in planning, it shouldn't be in planning for long. Make a decision. Let's sort it out. Why is it in planning for months? That's what I can't get my head around. But look, the national numbers, yes, there are loads of things in planning. We've missed the housing targets. We know that. The national papers have been publishing that for a long time. There's council bottlenecks. There's stuff in with the council awaiting approval, and it seems to have been there forever. I know one guy who's been trying to convert. He's been trying to build on an old tip, and it was an illegal tip. So he's actually offered the council to clean the tip up for free. I'll clean the tip up for free. I'll plant 13 acres of woodland open to the public, right? But I'd like to put a little depot on there, right? 3.5 years that's been going on.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mark, for a change, I've become the statistician because I know a little bit about this. Let's give you what the standard should be. Minor applications are normally about 8 weeks. Majors are 13 weeks, and major projects needing environmental assessments is meant to be 16 weeks. That's the target. We all know that with the British safety regulations and the Grenfell Tower stuff, that's gone to 30 weeks. And if you don't get it signed off, you have to start again at the beginning. So when you're talking about £150 million project, delayed by 30 weeks now, that's over 6-8 months. Between 6 and 8 months, and then you got to start again. All them people, where are they going to work? So what's actually happens in reality is the major developments, and believe it or not, only 20% of major applications are actually decided with the proper 13-week deadline. So that means that 80% missed the original target. So there's part one, isn't there? That's it. So government stats are just bullshit. Government stats often say that 91% are decided on time, but that includes councils agreeing extensions of time with developers. So that's actually basically moving the goalposts, don't you think? It's we're talking about having an extension of time still comes within the KPI of the 13 weeks, which is bullshit. So in minor applications, only 42%, believe it or not, are decided within the proper 8-week deadline. So again, that's like 58% is not. So like more than half are not. So of mid 2025, and when we're talking about this, because obviously I've had our business has been impacted on planning issues all along. So as of mid 2025, there was 111,200 planning applications that are still sitting in the backlog across England. Let's just say that again to you. There's 111,200 planning applications still sitting in the backlog across England.
Wow.
So large housing schemes can take years, according to the housing planning research. I mean, this is just a little thing that I dragged off last night. Smaller developments under 100 homes is 3.8 years from planning approval to the first homes being built. Under 100 homes, these little plots that you see took 3.8 years from planning. The large developments, 1,000 homes. How much, Mark? 1,000 homes plus. We were going to go out and build 1,000 back homes plus.
I bet there's a delay. I bet there's a planning delay of almost 6 years, isn't there?
Do you know what you're bang on? It's 6+ years before the first homes are delivered. 6 years. Okay? So appeals, they're another nightmare. So a planning sorry, get my teeth back in there. Maybe it's I've started to shake with the stress of it all. The appeal decision will take around 21 weeks, and some inquiry appeals are 28 weeks. So even after rejection, you're potentially waiting another half a year to get that back into planning. Some councils are taking 415 days as an average. That's over 13 months. Let me just say that again. When you're looking for an appeal, so I put my house planning in there and they've thrown it out because I want fucking red tiles and the geezer next door's got grey, it's 415 days, 13 months later, for the decisions that were supposed to be 13 weeks, remember? Yeah, these are actual facts. So let me get this right. The government says that major planning decisions should take 13 weeks. Let's go back over that. But only 20% of them happen within that time frame. So the reason government figures look better is because councils asked developers to agree extensions, which makes the stats look healthier than what the actual reality is. So we're kind of what I would call gaming the numbers, don't you think?
Yeah,
100% builders' price jobs expected delays is becoming normal. And when we wonder why houses are expensive, this is one of the realities. It's kind of, I don't know, I think they were, before we get on to labour, because we've spoken about labour shortages before, but I just think that, it's, and we'll probably get some stats there of labour shortages, but
this is why ultimately the housing companies are struggling then, surely, because let's imagine you're a housing company, you've purchased a parcel of land, yeah, so you've spent that money, you've bought the land, it's now sitting in your land bank, as they call it, and now you're trying to get permission. So you've got all the legal costs and the architectural costs. You've had it all drawn up. Let's say you want 20 houses on it. You've had it all drawn up, architecturally designed. You submit it through to the planning. They don't like it because you got one tree too less, right? So then it comes back. You add the tree on. You change the tiles to grey from red, as you said. You submit it again. So in reality, then, from what you've said, you're so deep you've spent so much cash and you haven't even put a brick up yet.
Well, this is the fiddle of before. Do you remember the outline planning permission bullshit, which always gets me? I used to go to my boss years when I was a young lad at Burn when they were starting their developing at Ardmore. I used to say, I found a little bit of land. And he said, if you've seen it advertised, if it's got outline planning permission, it's just gone. It's too expensive. And people would buy land and get outline planning to build housing. It's easy to get outline planning. Say, oh yeah, I want to build 2 or 3 homes. But you get the outline planning permission and then you sell it onto a developer and the council have kind of already agreed that there's some building that could go on. But that's not suitable to build 2 or 3 homes. You can't make any money doing that unless you're selling the house on that particular plot of land for what you paid for it, for £5 million each. You might need to build 100 homes on that property. Then your outline planning permission's out the fucking window, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's just a. I think that guy, who's the bald little guy that does that rip off Britain, we should have him on because we would have 3 baldies on it.
Is it Matt Lucas? Is it?
No, he's the geezer from the Little Britain, isn't he? Dominic, isn't it? Dom. Rip off Britain, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Anyway, let's go on to Labour then, Mark. It looks like I'm the stato this time, but
yeah.
They reckon that vacancies around. We've talked about this before, but there was there was over 51,000 in 2023 of open roles. Let me just start with that. 51,000. I know this because I was at a seminar the other day and someone said to me that was in 2023 and in 2025, that's going to be actually more. So as from now, we're sitting here, we potentially got a shortage of nearly 60-odd thousand people in bricklayers, carpenters, plasterers, general trades, site managers. If you what? Just take a moment for that. 60,000 shortage. And they reckon this was quite funny. So I'm banging on, but I've got a bit of knowledge about this particular subject. With the training and what we're trying to do. I sat down and listened. That CITB, they've cut some funding. They have said they haven't got certain funding for certain things anymore. They ain't got no money to do this, even though we've got the levy, everyone's paying in. But then they come out with amazing stats, the CITB. They come out with that estimates that the UK needs about 251,000 extra construction workers by 2028. That's 50,000, if you work it out roughly, give or take a fag packet, 50,000 new workers every year. And as I've said many times, over 25 of those, 25% of those, a quarter, are over the age of 50. And thousands are expected to retire with just this decade alone because we're an ageing population.
I've done some. I might be able to redeem myself on some stats, Mark.
Yeah.
I've done some. I've got some stats of that actually. This will blow your mind actually. It's 750,000 construction workers, right, expected to retire by 2036. 35% of workers are over 50 now. And the construction workforce forecast is set to grow by 2.75 million by 2029. Just can't keep up with it.
Yeah, and all that's going to do is raise the price. These people become a commodity. So when everyone's talking, like, especially young people, some of these influencers out there now on YouTube, like us, influencers joke, what I mean? But some of the serious people that have got some big followings, they want to be turning around and saying, I've got lucky here. AI's going to rule the world. There's entry-level jobs are gone, but there's not in construction. You need to get yourself in construction. We need to get our young people into construction. And, there's an apprentice decline, isn't there? Apprenticeship decline. Construction apprenticeships dropped significantly after 2018 and haven't fully recovered. Now, that's fuck all to do with COVID. That's just... And I think that's because we just made it harder, I suppose, for the colleges to choose their own kind of apprenticeships. So they all would do the easy ones, hairdressers and plumbers, and we all got together and said, oh yeah, we'll have a trailblazer scenario where we get involved. When we need to get Paul Skitt, I'm meeting Paul hopefully in London soon. I'll get him tied down and he'll give us we'll have a real apprenticeship decline fight on our hands, what he's going through and what, people like the good stuff that Flannery's and people like that are doing at the moment. But so I don't know, have you got any other bits and pieces that we want to add to this particular debate?
Yeah, I've got a few. Let me have a scroll through here. So I've got some of the trades, and I've got them under severity. Yeah, so bricklayers, severe shortage; ground workers, high demand; plant operators, high demand; carpenters and joiners, severe shortage; civil engineering operatives, growing demand; scaffolders. Seen a bit of fast growth, steel fixers, steel workers, fast growth. Electricians, shortage is now increasing. Surveyors is a growing shortage. Site managers, strong demand. Engineers, high demand. So, I mean, the question to you: when kids are at college or at school, are they taught to want to go into the computers or the office trades? Are they subliminally taught that by accident?
Because the Ofsted report aims to talk about kids academically more still than practically still. You know, we try and butter it up by turning around and saying to everyone, oh yeah, there's loads of them normal jobs in construction. We want HR people, we want marketing people, we want these people. It's a normal, come and work for us. We actually want boots on the ground. I think we should stop trying to woolly it up. You know, the schools are not feeding the amount of people into the industries that is the backbone of the country. Because teachers academically think it's all about academia, it's all about adding up fucking numbers and letters and words. You know, remember that considered the bottom 30% of all children in one point from the 60s and onwards ended up in construction. And then you think, well, look, you know, these stupid people, that's what they put them in, the bottom 30 people. And that's how they talk about them. You know, these people, that's including me, by the way, and you, who probably didn't do that well at school, are, look at what they built. Do you know what I mean?
London.
Look at what they built. And you think, unbelievable legacy to leave. And we just bottom it out. And because of that, we've seen, just in the last few years, we've always talked about rapid rise. We've had to deal with operators' costs, you know, rapid rise, shortage of decent operators. But just general trades in the last, you know, since COVID, have gone up from £150 average, they said, a day to £250 a day. That's a big increase. If there's any accountants out there, you know, when we're talking about pushing kids through university, any doctors, lawyers, accountants, anyone else that's had pretty much a near on 85% pay rise, let us know, because I don't think that's the case. So when we're talking about what schools should be doing, and we said before, how did construction rank? Construction ranked in the top 100 jobs to do, or who to work for, sorry. As we spun it on his head that time, we'd done that survey. 9,000 children in the UK all answered the same questions. What company would you want to work for? Not what industry, what company. Construction came in at 97, was the first time it hit out of 100, and that was Balfour Beatty's. And probably because Balfour Beatty's have got a decent marketing background and a good image in the UK. And then number 99 was Lang O'Rourke. Now that could be because also they do quite well, and they're always in the press, those two boys, you know. But 97 mark. So McDonald's was 36. I always say that to people. McDonald's was number 36 on the list. Now that shows you that they are proving to kids that McDonald's is a much better and nicer environment, and there's more prospects to work in McDonald's and work your way through and perhaps be a franchise owner yourself one day than it is picking up a spanner or a saw or a trowel. But that's what people think. And obviously the world is technical and electronic, so everyone thinks that the top 10 were obviously Google, Microsoft, you know, everyone else, you know, Facebook, because we believe that that's the world to go and live in, and the influencers show us that, you know, I've got 1 million followers and I'm making 15 million a year on OnlyFans, so that's the route to go. And you think, well, not everyone can do that. Only the top 1% get to where they get to on YouTube and things like that. And they've, you know, even had an exhibition in Excel about YouTube and becoming an influencer. Did you know that?
There's actually an exhibition about it.
There was an exhibition, and I'll tell you who was there pushing it out there was Jimmy Bullard. You know, funny Jimmy, you know, good guy, ex-footballer, those who know him, he's on YouTube now, sensation golfer, great golfer, you know, funny guy. And yeah, but he's making it because he's had that background. He's made some money in football, and now he's been able to make some money by relaxing and doing what he wants to do. And yeah, he's famous, and he, you know, but the guy coming out of, you know, Frere Barnet County, where I used to go to in North London, isn't coming straight onto 1 million views. You know, it's bullshit. So, you know, we're not getting off piece, but do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah, and I think it takes, like you said, it's the 1%. 1% make it. The others don't. They got to keep going at it. You know, but just to, you know, to reframe what we were going back to. It's difficult because you may remember I pointed out some of the challenges that a company might have when buying land. So, you know, you've got the land banking purchases. You've got companies such as, you know, Taylor Wimpey, Persimmon, Barratt Homes. They've got big land banks awaiting planning to go through.
So there is, and funny enough, you say that. I think it was one of the presses that someone said that you said Taylor Wimpey there. I think Taylor Wimpey had like 140,000 plots or something.
Really?
Yeah, 140,000 plots. I mean, Barratt's was somewhere like 92,000. The Simmons was 82,000, and Bellway's was 100,000 plus.
Wow.
But it shows you the scale that, you know, at the top, and the top 10 builders account for roughly about 40% of all new builds in the UK. So they're building 100 plus homes. These are people that are building the 100 plus homes. These are the people that are waiting 6 years.
Yeah, to get yeah, and I know that because a friend of mine, his dad's older now and he can't work the farm anymore, and they've got a field, and they're selling the field, and I swear he said to me the field had been sold 3 years ago, and I said, "All right," and it turns out they'd paid a deposit or something, the housing company, so they're getting planning on it. And he said to me, I said, "Oh," like every time I catch up with him, I go, is the field sold now? You know, because I grew up, Dad had the field as I grew up all through my youth. And he said, "No, planning's come back. We got to move or be, there's a negotiation about who's going to move the water main." All right. Planning's gone in again. Oh, planning's come back. There's a negotiation about what we're going to do about the drainage. And it's like, why is this not all done in one? Why has it got to keep doing that? Why didn't you get all the gas, all the electric, all the drainage, all the plumbing? We're going to do this, this, and this, and that, and that.
That's the Carlsberg advert, isn't it?
Is it?
That's the Carlsberg advert when he's digging out, remember? And rather than re-dig it up again, the guy with the telephone, he's digging up for water, and the guy said, "I couldn't put my cable down there at the same time." And then another guy comes, "I couldn't put my gas pipe down there at the same time." And it was like they were trying to turn and say if Carlsberg done building works,
right? Yeah,
work yeah. But I'm going to have a dig at them. I'm going to have a little bit of dig about these people because there is some stuff out there, you know. And I think we've mentioned it once or twice way back when we first started about developers. Because what's really interesting here is a couple of things that come to mind when we're talking about this. The government turn around and they turn around, and every government, by the way, I'm just saying, digging out the Labour Party, but the previous government said we need 1 million homes built. You've heard that, haven't you? Over 1 million homes. Well, I can tell you now that the local government association highlighted that over 1 million homes approved since 2010 That's 1 million homes been approved for planning since 2010 have not yet been completed. So that's a stat worth talking about, Mark. Do you know what I mean? That's the one about low end. Developer. I don't know if you noticed in recent years, a year or so ago, that Persimmons PLC reported a profit margin of over 25%. Now, last week, or a couple of weeks ago, we talked about 2% for the builder. So that triggered a major criticism. I don't know if you remember it in the press. The margins have softened a little bit due to some market pressures. I appreciate that. But past criticism emerged, and I'm not digging out Persimmons, it's just that it's out there in the press that the CEO's bonus package exceeded over £100 million.
Do you not think there's a bit of unfairness there, in the sense that if you're a house builder and you build a house, you effectively get market rate? So let's say you built a house, the local houses in the area are all about 350 grand, so you get 350 grand. But yet the guy that done the foundations has made 2%. The bricklayers made 2%.
But what's worse about that, Mark? It's not just worse about that. Those people that are working as bricklayers, they're the people that will be also in that category normally of buying those homes, those new homes. They're meant to be slightly a bit cheaper and stuff like that. And the way it's been manipulated is that the developer's still getting the majority of the cake, and they don't care if the material price goes up, because they'll just put the price up. And how they work with the mortgage companies is quite stressful, really, because you now, as a young person, can go and get a £360,000 mortgage. You need two of you for very little wages, because you can spread it over 40 years now. So by the time you've moved in, you're paying, I think the stats roughly about, say for every £350,000 house over 40 years, it will cost you about £1,600 a month, right, for 40 years. So after 5 years, you decide you want to move. How much do you think you paid for that house? You paid nothing. Nothing. You've even scratched the surface of it. The only people who are actually making any money out of this are the developers. And that's where people are going to get angry. How can you have 1 million homes, so planning permission, but still not built? And how can profits, if they're so strong, why should the public, feel any sympathy for anything to do with developers and anything like that?
It's not the profit isn't going down the chain, is it? The ground worker didn't earn a little bit more. The bricklayer didn't get any more. The roofing companies didn't get any more.
You ain't going to build. You ain't going to invest your 100 million in a housing development to get 2% higher. Yes, there's no way. But look, we're going on. It's been a good episode, actually, Mark. Good to speak. What would you change? What can we do? You get one solution. What changes tomorrow?
For me, and I mentioned this earlier on, for me, it'll be a planning reform. Get the stuff through quicker. It's unbelievable. Why has it got to bounce around with stupid decisions, taking big delays? It's look, if it's approved, let's approve it. If it's not approved because it needs, I get that. If it's not approved because it's greenbelt or there's something wrong with it, then disprove it. But don't be sitting there in the folds for weeks, months, years, waiting and planning.
And I was going to add to that. I think planning and land reform comes in to that. An affordable housing policy is one of them. We've got that, but I'm not even going to say about skills investment, because we've talked about that for 100 years and there's no real way of investing it. Nobody really, they pay a levy in. What do people actually get out of it? I believe we're over-skilled. This is a controversial thing to say, but I've always agreed in it. We'll go back to that 30%, the bottom 30% of so-called academically challenged, not stupid children. They're not less intelligent. They're just not as academic as the top set of children end up in some kind of construction related skill set. But to be a carpenter, you have to have a level 1 English and maths. I mean, what the fuck? You didn't used to have it in years gone by, but you have to have a level, they say, of English and maths to be able to get you through, because you won't be able to get through the apprenticeship programme. Well, that's because of the way you've written the apprenticeship programme, because it's not based on practical skills, it's based on written assessment. Oh, you've got to be able to read a plan. Well, the amount of builders that we've had that built much... How many people, just answer me one question, Mark, how many of the builders that done the pyramids had English and maths level 1? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What a bunch of...
They were still chipping on stone the hieroglyphs. You know, they were still talking with pictures. You know what I mean? So
unbelievable. And you see some of the building work and what's going on, like some of the fantastic work that we've seen over the years. And there's people that, you know, that couldn't even read the pay slips, never mind. You know what I mean? It's just rubbish. Just rubbish.
That's like asking. That is like asking, isn't it? Right? That's like you saying, "I want to be a good chef," and they go, "Oh yeah, if you got a degree in mathematics," and you go, "What do I need a degree in mathematics for?" When you turn the buttons, it's all numbers.
Yeah, and you've got to add up the fucking food. How much the food's going to cost you?
Gas mark 6. It could be tough. Could be tough working that out. How long?
It's crazy, isn't it? We laugh about it, but it's something passionate about. Britain, this goes up, Mark. You know, Britain is one of the most expensive places in the world to build, by the sounds of it. Yeah, millions of people still can't afford homes. There's over 1 million homes that have been given planning and not built. And that was from 2010. It tells you that the problem is much deeper than just bricks and mortar. It's all about the other added bureaucracy that goes with it, and I don't think things are going to change until it has an absolute radical shake-up. But thanks for tuning in, guys, and don't remember, what's the message, Mark?
Like and subscribe. Yep. If you enjoy what you see, like and subscribe, and of course, if you know anybody or you've got friends and relatives or whatever that would enjoy these podcasts, please feel free to share them. Like, subscribe and share. Why not?
Lovely. Thanks a lot.
The opinions expressed within this podcast are solely the individuals and do not reflect the opinions and beliefs of the sponsors or its affiliates.